Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight, the Friday night edition. My name is Dave Scott. We're glad to have R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection here for you as the commander of the Woo Train is about to take us on a great adventure for his final appearance of 2024. We have all of you here as well, starting off with Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing the bronze. Let's get to the lineup here. Hey, Robert Lamoth, Road Flair, Deanna Ann, how you doing? Chris Laker is here. Chris Laker will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Frankie B, Parasolo, Little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy? Eternity Eternal, thanks for coming on in. Mel WD-40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show. Because, you know, when you're talking aliens, they always want to go into a show nice and smooth. They don't like rigidness, these aliens. So Mel's doing a great job lubing us up for tonight. High Necessary Dialogue, Ethanol, John Jackson, Lee the Bee, and Joanne. Thank you all for coming on in. As we continue on with our roll call here, who's next here? Well, it's Zed Hut. Zed Hut will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Continuing on, Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you around here. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Bill Sardellis, Operation Shutdown. Thanks for coming on in. Hi there, Cosmic Joe, and thank you for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you very, very much. Marty Burback, W. David Page, Miss Wendy, welcome to SOR Chat. Good morning in the UK, my fellow Commonwealther. Candy Wolf, how are you? Leafy Nebula, what's happening? Deidre, the hippie from Vancouver Island. Doesn't matter whether it's rain, sleet, snow, she's wearing Birkenstocks. SJ Navspotter, how are you? Good to see you. Chill Farm, J True Seeker, JSCO, thank you all for coming on in. Hi there, Richard Minnick. Hope you're having a great night. Walter, how you doing? Aussie Rob, give us an update on them ham hocks, if you don't mind. We'd appreciate it. The real one and the metallic one. We need an update on both. All right, continuing on here. Thank you, Rob, for the 10th anniversary birthday wishes. All right, Scott Rosen, how did you get here? I don't know. You just showed up. Richard, thank you very much for that awesome super chat. Greatly appreciate your great love, man. Thank you very, very much. All right, in the studio, how you doing? Al Garay over on X. I'm going to make that Twitch. He's so excited for Keith. He ran 15 miles in a world record, 8 minutes, 22 seconds. Yeah, kicked ass. It took names today. All the warm up for Keith. Belenia, my man. How you doing? Hey, Mel WD40, thank you for that awesome super chat. That kind of stuff just lubes us up perfectly. Just lubes us up perfectly. We appreciate that. Spaceman, how you doing? Good morning to you, my fellow UKer. He loves a good drone. Dave, you would love my silver ones. Very alien looking. I love it, Deidre. Take a picture and send it to me. I don't even know if you have me on Facebook, but if you do, add me. I want to see that. All right, let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are getting ready for R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. As Keith comes in the first Friday of every month, it's his final appearance of 2024, and we are in roll call on our YouTube channel. Let us say hello to Forrest Louie, Area 51, how you doing? Matthew Goodka, Fapperoony, what's happening? Yep, I am looking gross as per usual. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. Resonate, how's it going? Gyro or Euro, what do you prefer? Let me know. Let me know. All right. Don't forget with Keith, put your questions in capital letters. We take questions right off the bat here, people. Oop, to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Remember, you can get your shirt right now that says, Friends Do Not Let Friends UAP. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. Mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight. Final appearance of 2024 for R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection coming up momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is here with another creepy story about Gator Man. Gator Man. Yes. And right after that, Lee Strauss will be here talking some UFOs and cryptids on the report, filling in for Jackie Harmon. Jackie Harmon was supposed to be here tonight, but guess what? She's taking part in a parade. Yep, she's playing the Grinch in a parade float. Oh, I hate parades. I'm not trying to be a Grinch here myself, but I hate parades. I find them annoying. Nobody builds nice floats anymore. Remember the days of like when they actually built floats in community parades, and you had the high school band marching and you know the cheerleaders doing their thing and all sorts of stuff. Like it was great. Now it's like a flat deck semi truck or like a Ford F-350 flat deck that's decked out. And how many parade trucks do you need, especially ones playing, you know, some stupid Christmas music that doesn't even make sense to the season? I don't like it. Let's get back to real floats here. Put some imagination into it. You know? Yeah. And strangers waving at me at a parade like they're so happy. Look at me. I'm on a semi-truck. Waving drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. Anyways, after missing the Dave 101, I guess that's my rant for today. All right, let's get to R Keith Andrews. He is a lifelong ET contactee. He is someone who now takes the time to help counsel those who have had their own experiences trying to figure out what is going on with them. It's a life that Keith didn't want, but it's the life he has, and he's dedicated himself to bringing light to the extraterrestrials that are actually visiting here. Whether they're good, bad, positive, negative, Keith has dealt with them all, and he helps you answer the questions as we turn up the woo. R Keith Andrews, the ET Connection. Good to have you back. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Well, thanks very much for having me, and thanks so much for everybody that's joining us. By the way, Merry Christmas to one and all. And
Keith,
a little belated pretend.
We got to make a big announcement here. You got engaged.
I did.
You got engaged.
I announced at 4 minutes after midnight on the morning of the 4th. And at 8 minutes after midnight on the morning of the 4th, she said yes. She did, Kara did have she was kind enough to say, I'm not saying no, before she put the pause in, but, so you can picture where that goes.
Well, I'm so happy for you, man.
But yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Well, you should be. And we got to meet your lovely fiance Kira at the Reno fan party last year, and what a beautiful young lady she is.
Yeah, I'm quite content. We've been together now for 4 years, and back in Reno, that was actually the first time we'd physically met.
And now look at you. You're on the way. You're on the way.
Pretty much.
To being inseparable.
I think we had already gotten that way. Although, admittedly, we can thank Apple for that, because a lot of our time was spent on FaceTime.
Excellent. Keith, for many people, that listen to this show, they're used to hearing you. And we just, as you know, celebrated our 10th anniversary last week. And I'll tell you, man, it was an emotional night, that's for sure. And you've been with us for, 9 years now?
It's got to be that. I know we've been debating, I don't know, Doug Shelby seems to have a handle on when we actually had our first show here. And somebody else, Tim, there's another one of the regulars in here that knows. But I don't honestly recall. It's been forever, that's for certain.
Been a long time. It's been a long time, my man.
I'm actually surprised that we're still here. Oh yeah, it's been a phenomenal.
Keith, for people who may be listening to
anywhere.
For people who may be listening to you for the first time here, this ET story goes way back to childhood for you, and now you help counsel those who are going through their own contact. Explain how you counsel people. Keith, can you hear me?
I did not get any of that.
Oh, that is so weird.
You're breaking up somewhat.
Okay. Let's try this again, because I know I'm coming through on my end. I can see the signals. You counsel people for a living who've had their own ET contact. How do you do that?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
Well, ultimately, I just get them to I hear their side of it without telling them, oh, it's real or it's not real. You just don't ever tell somebody that's not real. Okay. The biggest fear most people coming forward with an encounter have is that they're going to be told that they're making it up. And we got to realize these experiences, I don't know of very many people that ask to be abducted. it is not an enjoyable thing usually. And I love the way many people talk to me about how to get the off-worlders' attention, or telling us we're completely quarantined. But what I do is somebody tells me what they're going through. I look at it, and based on what they're going through, as compared to what I already know, I will help them either get a handle on it and say, okay, what you're experiencing is something that happens, or that I've seen before, or possibly, look, I've never run into that before, but let's get something straight. That doesn't mean it didn't occur. The hard thing for people to realize is that if you've been abducted, whether it's an imagined thing or an actual physical abduction, there are things you can do to cope with it. But denying that the feeling or the event occurred is not a good option.
What if we think it's just imagination?
Most people will. And as my brother put it, what you look at is take a look at all, and we'll call it circumstantial evidence. Treat it as though it's real, but keep an eye open for that one piece of information that derails that belief, because it may or may not exist. The reality is it's easier to assess something as your imagination than it is to sit there and go, it really happened. It's far less devastating.
What if people look at you or look at their situation and say that was just a nightmare? There's no way that happened.
I don't try and convince people that it did occur, because sometimes people can have that nightmare, as you put it, and they can live with that. But if you all of a sudden go, oh no, I'm being abducted, your entire reality base is likely to get turned upside down. I myself thought that my first abductions were fever induced. It wasn't until I was going through certain issues and talking to a number of people that I realized that these were not just random fever-induced events. And that's the hard part for most people.
Are people willing to accept that? How do they tell a dream from reality?
That is one of the biggest questions. And the best way I can put it is a dream doesn't have the extra, according to every psychologist I've talked to, psychologist, psychiatrist, you get the list. According to all of them, a dream does not bring about the physical memories. Okay, it doesn't bring about your physical marks, doesn't bring about the emotional disarray. One of the biggest things you got to look at is if you're having a dream, the terminology you're using to describe what you go through will be appropriate to today. If you're having an abduction, or if you had one that was lost in the antiquity of your childhood, your description of the event will be period and circumstantially appropriate. Like the day I was taken, I ended up in what I described as a room with walls of lights, toggles, and reels that made all kinds of whirring and clicking noises. Now, in today's world, I'd tell you I was in a computer mainframe, inside a room of a computer mainframe. Bearing in mind, that would have been back in 1960. First abduction would have been 1963. Day I was born. No, my apologies. That was my first astral trip. My first abduction took place when I was my first abduction took place when I was 3 years old, when the Talon snapped my arm just to see how long it would take. How much pressure. But you don't describe things that are a memory based in today's terminology if it's just surfacing. At least not from anybody I've spoken to, and I've spoken to a lot of people.
What are some of the coincidences that people who say they're taken have had?
One of the biggest ones is missing time. Okay, they don't recall, they're missing chunks of time that literally can't be accounted for. Many times they will have a mark, whether it's a scoop mark, kind of looks like somebody took a really tiny melon baller out of your skin somewhere. There may be an imprint, an imprint that looks like an equilateral triangle with a bar across the bottom of it. Now you may not know where the bottom is, but that bar will mark it. Of course, many people have turned up in places they couldn't recall how they got there, or their clothes are on backwards, or maybe they're not even their clothes. I've even had discussions with people that I got a call from one person. They have been somewhere down in South Carolina, if I recall correctly. They phoned me from the heart of London. They didn't have their ID. They didn't have any passport or anything with them. Now, as for why they phoned me, you get to figure that one out.
I like it, my man. Let's get to some audience questions here, because they are starting to build up for you, Keith. And we love having the audience participate right off the bat with you here. So we're going to start off with Joe. What the hell are all these weird drone things over New Jersey? I can answer that. Go ahead, Keith.
Best way I can put it is with the number of drones being sold on Amazon and various other outlets, I'd lay odds that we got a whole pile of things in the air that are literally terrestrial. Now, of course, as we all know, I don't actually pay much attention to the news. But my first suspicion is that there's a lot of people using their own drones at this point. And that's probably clouding the skies.
Well, one of the things that's come out today about this is that they believe there is this company called Sky Media that has been doing test drone flights, and News Nation actually reported that this was they believe that their sources believe that the U.S. military is actually testing drones over sensitive areas in order to see how quickly their radar operations can pick them up, because under what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, exactly what we told you on this show, exactly, that they were doing testing to see how drones could easily or not easily invade a military or sensitive area airspace. So it's all making sense now. It's definitely not aliens. Not aliens whatsoever.
See, and that fits with what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Let's go to Millennium. Good Ontario kid. In your opinion, which ET race has the best hair? And what do they think of your beautiful mutton chops? Good question.
Well, this is going to come across really, really rude. But I do believe the question said, in my opinion. In my opinion, I don't care. And in my opinion, what they think of my mutton chops pretty much falls under the same category. And yeah, I realize that that comes across rather rude, but one of the drawbacks with me is I will be honest with you.
Yeah, but your mutton chops are beautiful, man.
See, we got to remember that. Try that again, Dave.
I said I want your mutton chops for the studio here.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, once I'm done with them, you can have them.
Yes.
You know?
Wow.
Of course, that could be a day or two yet.
Well, make sure they're in your will. All right.
Yeah, one of the days I should probably get that.
So, which ETs have the nicest hair?
No, the reality is hair is actually. Well, the reality is that hair is actually a very rare commodity. I mean, humans put a lot of weight behind it, but not that many people have, and not that many of them actually have hair.
Don't the Pleiadians?
You know, that there's a couple. The Pleiadian, purebred Pleiadian is bald. They don't even have body hair, never mind hair on the top of their head.
All right, let's move on to another question. Ethanol is asking, are there people that will never see a UFO even if they really want to?
Absolutely. We've got 8 billion people plus on this planet. And it's a tiny fraction that actually admit to seeing UFOs. There's a staggering number that will look directly at a UFO and not see it. Because for one reason or another, they usually fear they won't recognize it. And what we got to remember is sometimes you see a UFO without actually seeing the vehicle. I.e., if you're looking at the starscape and stars are disappearing in sequentially and then reappearing a static point later, you're likely looking at a UFO you can't physically see, but it's blocking out the visual.
Stanton Friedman, Richard Dolan, Jim Mars, many of the legendary UFO hunters out there, never seen a UFO.
Very true.
They've tried. Don't you find that a little odd?
Actually, now I'm not going to get into any names, but I will tell you, when people try to see a UFO, it literally sets you up to miss it. And here's why. When you try to see a UFO, you are already accepting the possibility, and therefore the likelihood that you won't. This is why when I walk out the door, I don't try and see them, I just see them. You know, if we want to go back to pop culture of recent years, we go to Star Wars and Yoda, where he said, "There is no try. There is only do or do not."
It's a beautiful saying, isn't it?
It is.
We got about 30 seconds to go here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection continues right now. And do we have time for another question here? No. Keith, do you think it's in DNA that some people are just trying too hard to see them and therefore can't? I need a 15-second answer.
Yes. The reality is, if you push too hard, it's much like other things, you'll bottleneck the energy. In this case, the optic nerve.
Well, on that note, we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection on Spaced Out Radio. We will continue with audience questions from our YouTube channel and our other social media platforms as we do this of each month here on Spaced Out Radio. R Keith Andrews, last appearance of 2024. Don't worry, though. He'll be back in 2025 on the mighty SOR. All right, we're clear, Keith.
Okie doke. I'm just going to go and grab a little more water.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll just stare into the abyss here.
Okay, enjoy.
I'm just going to stare at you guys. Ace May, welcome to SOR Chat. That's a very powerful yo. Joe, did Lubla come back yet? Simon, how you doing, buddy? Right now it's raining outside. It would be 35 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's about 3 degrees Celsius outside SOR headquarters right now. Hi, Hillbilly Herb. Free your mind. How are you? Free your mind. Do you really have blue hair? I like blue hair. I do. Joey Glow, how you doing? Joe, I don't think you'd have to worry about Lubla with coyotes. She's too big and strong.
I'm back.
Yeah, we can tell.
I figured you might be able to.
Mm-hmm. Was I still cutting out?
Not after we, it was funny because not now.
Okay.
And the last little bit you weren't, except that one comment and the one question you asked, where I said I didn't hear any of it. But we cleared that. You got that through, and then we haven't had a problem since.
We got about 3 minutes.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I see by just watching the comments go by, we're still getting the normal issue of some people going, "Oh, you're a lunatic." Well, I tell myself that every morning anyway, so what the heck? But somebody told me one day, if you don't have somebody complaining, you're not doing it right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned it. I think I'd actually mentioned to you. I tried it the other day again. I told people I'd never have another stroke. But I do think hitting 220 over 140, as far as blood pressure goes, might be a bit of a problem.
Could be.
I think that was probably a little high. But no, I figure heart attacks I can work with. The stroke, not again. Did that once, that was enough.
No, that's not fun. That's just not fun at all. Not fun at all. It's just not fun, Keith.
No. Christine, I'm just looking at the comments. And the reality is I'm not on blood pressure meds. I won't touch them. Every time I try medication, it throws me all out the window.
All right, where are we here?
I don't know.
Digger Dog, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you, Deidre. And your hippie shoes. Christine Kira is from Utah. Gory Tiger, how are you? Okay, we're all caught up. And yeah, high blood pressure sucks, man.
It does, but it's fun to play with.
Yeah. Big thank you tonight to Cosmic Joe, Richard, Mel, Backspin, Marty, don't forget, May 1st to 4th, Vegas, Linda, and Walter for the great super chats. We appreciate the love and support. Go check out our store and our website, too. Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate your listening ears, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone tuning us in. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. R Keith Andrews, the ET Connection. It happens now as we are checking things out on all things extraterrestrial and supernatural. And Keith, you ready?
I am. We are good to go.
Your next question from Kurt. Howdy, SOR. R Keith Andrews tonight. Let's go. Oh, just a comment. Let's go to the Doug Shelby. Will abductions, especially the traumatic ones, ever end?
Well, in the 5 billion years on this planet, I've never seen them stop. So I'm not holding my breath on it. And given the number of star systems they take place in, it's not looking good to bring them to a close. You got to remember the primary purpose for abductions is literally, for whatever they're working on, it is literally to learn. It doesn't matter what race and what race is doing them. That's just the reality behind it. So, no, I would not be expecting abductions to end anytime soon.
Most people would say, Keith, that they are all traumatic, whether they're good, positive, negative, whatever it may be. Isn't it all on how we judge them?
Ultimately, yes. I mean, I find waking up in the morning dramatic. I keep having to deal with people that are, well, we just won't use that word here. But it literally boils down to how you look at them. They are simply other people. They've got very similar ideas, very similar situations that we have. Okay. But the fact of the matter is, you are absolutely right. It's how you look at the event, and that will determine if it's trauma or if it is cause for celebration.
Let's move on to another question.
Absolutely.
Let's go to Kurt. Have you ever heard of any black goo or black rock that's wet?
Yeah, a couple of them. Now, specifically which one this individual is referring to, the reality is I don't know which one specifically, but I do know that black goo, and it's a great way to call it. If you remember the 1950s show, The Blob, kind of looked like black goo. Well, the reality is that's a life form. Specifically, that would be one of the Corlock. Now, the one on the blob was a little on the big side. But Corlock come in various colors, but they literally look like Odo off of Star Trek. They did a fabulous job on that one.
What's a black goo for?
Well, like I said, the black goo itself, you're likely looking at what we would call a negroid Corlock, aka it just happens to be black. But if they don't take on a form, they actually don't have a physical form. It's not like they're bipedal by nature. They're more like 160 pound amoeba.
My question to you regarding that then is, when you see UFO landings, people say that there seems to be some sort of metallic drip that comes from it. It's almost like when you splash molten aluminum or something along those lines. What is that then?
That would be biofuel. Would be a biomechanical, a combination biomechanical fuel, if you will. Depending on the race, let's face it, their ships are not all perfect. Sometimes when landing takes place, it's literally because they have to. Picture, if you will, cosmic oil.
Right.
Well, that's probably the easiest way to look at it.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Marty. Keith, are you familiar with the hybrid race known as the Sasani? If so, what can you tell us about them?
We'll have to start with the idea of not by name. But then a lot of the races that I know of, I don't know them by common name. So, best I could tell you is, with a little bit more information on what the Sasani are behaving like, or qualities about them, I may know them by a different name. And then I'll be happy to fill you in.
Well, let me ask you that then, because, over the years, the names that you have are the names that not a lot of other people use. Now, I'm not questioning you on that. You know that. But have you been told different names for different species that other intuitives such as yourself have been told different names about the same ones?
The short answer is yes. See, the thing is, if you go back in history on Earth, people call themselves a given name. But for instance, on Earth, we refer to ourselves as humans. Most of the consortium refer to humans as Solarians. Okay, we call each other humans, or other various names, but you get where the problem comes in. We call the Nords the Nordics, right? The Nords call themselves Gedefni, which has nothing to do with the Nordic appearance. This is where the differences come in. And quite often you'll find, even with seers, even with sensitives and super sensitives, you still have to translate it into your own, into your own rendition of reality, if you will. Hopefully that makes sense.
Sure. What about spiritual beings on that line then?
It's the same category, it's the same qualification. Spiritual beings call themselves one thing, depending on, it's not just one spiritual being. There are all kinds of different, what you would call either categories or species. But we have to remember, when you compare, your so-called first world countries to the Aborigines and to the pygmies of the Congo. We are, according to them, gods. And according to many people of the Western culture, and of the Eastern for that matter, they consider themselves the same way. Okay, so it really depends on the individual and how you look at it as to how they're going to quantify it. You know, this is where it gets to be very complicated in piecing it together. And, you know, if we take a look at Gene Roddenberry, he said it best. The biggest problem that people will have in getting to understand aliens is there's no reference point. You know, names have the same problem.
All right, let's go to another question here as we get more questions from our audience on our YouTube and social media side. Dave Tiger Williams is asking, could these craft have a skin on them like the Sphere in Vegas and display anything that they want?
Some can. You know, if you take a look at it, the technology these people have makes our stuff look like the abacus by comparison. So they can absolutely project onto the surface. Heck, in Japan today, the semi-trucks have a video system that projects what is in front of them onto the back door. There is nothing stopping off-worlders from doing the same thing.
Okay. I'm just trying to imagine that right now, to be blunt. But that wouldn't include shape-shifting.
No.
Because a lot of these craft can shape-shift.
Some can. You know, there are certainly some crafts that do shapeshift. Zotar, I think it is. Let me see here. I believe it's the Zotar have a ship that literally looks like a no. Yeah, I think it's a Zotar. Let me just double check that. That have a ship that literally deploys legs. And of course, when you know, there are some that are just bizarre. Where are the Zotar here? This is one of them. I mean, I'm looking at right now. This book has 60 different races. I've got another book the same size I'm working with.
Okay. One of the things, Keith, while you're looking at that, one of the things that has come out about all of these drones is people saying they believe that they are shape-shifting into vehicles that we have on this planet, whether it's airplanes, whether it's drones, whether it's clouds, or whatever it may be. Can they do that?
Only one race that I know of can do that, and they're not here yet. Not on maps, that's for certain. And that, you know, that, pray English here, shall we? That would be the Xenon. They are, and what they do is they literally take a look at bioorganisms and or mechanical constructs and replicate them. And yes, they will, you know, when you're looking at that, the Xenon are literally based on the show Transformers was based on the Xenon, in my opinion. But they can do full shape shifting. Okay, but they cannot, like, one will turn into one shape. It will not turn into multiple different ones. I like that term. Biomimicry is a great term. But ultimately, the majority of them are a ship. They may produce a holograph to throw people off, but they don't physically transform.
All right, let's move on to another question with you, Keith. Let's go over to Andromedan. Keith, is there a technique to see UFOs?
This is going to sound really bizarre, but it's actually quite a simple one. Literally speaking, forget you can't see them. Now, some of you will turn around and go, well, that's just using your imagination. And, with an imagination like that, if you see it often enough, go to Vegas and imagine winning the lottery. But it literally boils down to forgetting that you don't know how to see them. Because I will tell you, even if you do see them, it's going to scramble your outlook on life. Because it's one thing to go, I really wish I could see a UFO, or I really wish I could feel an abduction. Okay, I'd love to be abducted and experience that. I'm telling you, this is not something that people that have been there would recommend, because it totally turns your life upside down.
All right, let's go over to Necessary Dialogue. Do some ETs have a sense of humor?
Oh, Lord, yeah. It's just some of them, by human standards, would be sick and twisted. Vegans find it absolutely hilarious to rip any other species, to tear the leg off and watch them wiggle around in the room until they peter out. They find it absolutely hilarious. But you got to remember, they've got no pain center.
Why is that?
Well, they weren't born with one. Or are you asking why they find it funny?
No, why don't they have any pain sense?
The reality is they live in a very hostile environment. And survival required, because so much damage was done, and we're talking in the early stages of evolution, they never developed a pain sense. So the only way they know they've lost a limb, for instance, is they can no longer pick up something on that side of their body. I mean, you look at it, we can say humans develop binocular vision as a method of survival. Well, if you are being hurt so often that your body has to shut it out permanently, it will evolve to that point. This falls under the classification by human definition of theoretical genetics. Now, we are talking something that took literally millions of years to evolve. Or, as humans would likely think, devolve. Humans are extremely fragile. Therefore, pain helps keep you safe.
Very true. Very true. All right. Let's go to another one. Let's go to Jeff. R. Keith, what are the reasons for an orb showing up in front of me and 6 other 18 to 20-year-old guys?
Odds are they weren't chasing you. The showing up would be simply observation. But when we take a look at the issue of them chasing you, the odds are you got frightened and started to run. And they followed. And there's, whatever you do, understand that running is not a sign of weakness or a sign of cowardice. Let's face it, there are things you don't want to stand around for. But the odds are they were just following you. I certainly don't feel any animosity towards you.
So what should we do then? Just stand still and let them do their thing?
I've never seen humans handle that one very well. That's an individual call. Okay. I mean, you take a look at any human environment. I got waken up, let's just take a normal thing. I got wakened up to a house fire one day. The cops were banging on my window. Get up, get up. I said, I'm coming. Keep your pants on. Well, your house is on fire. I said, fine. I'll put my pants on. And that was the entirety of my reaction to it. Everybody reacts in their own way. And there's no way for me to sit here and go, that's a good way or that's a bad way.
All right, as we continue on with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection, let's go next to Jennifer. Pardon me, Yennefer. She prefers a soft J. Keith, are there furry aliens? By the way, congrats on your engagement.
Number one, there's a lot of furry aliens. We'll get back to those in a second, but thank you very much for the congratulations. I do appreciate it. But there are a staggering number of furry aliens. Okay. Not the least of which, now, is the Ecotl. I will tell you this. If you watch movies at all, way back, do you remember, and Dave, you probably remember it, a show called Dark Crystal? Okay. There was a furry little, there was a fur ball there that was 3/4 mouth. Okay. So yeah, there's all kinds of fur covered individuals. Not the least of which would be your Alarians, which are by human definition werewolves.
All right. Everett is asking, if the drones topic comes back up, which we'll bring it up now, is there any relation between the drones and the recent explosions or discharges captured on the moon's surface?
Only in as much as if the drones are relaying it. But if you're asking, is there some sort of war going on the moon's surface? Not that I'm aware of. Okay, there's a lot of things, and you might be seeing things that are, you might be seeing, like the explosions that you're referring to may well be misfires or ships landing or taking off. Any number of things could be going on, but that is a protected way station. Okay, and you got to realize when I'm talking protected, I'm not talking that a Terran military has anything to do with it.
So do you think then that these drones or what's happening on the moon then is natural phenomena, or do you think it's man-made or alien-made?
Most of it is likely alien-made. I wouldn't be surprised if some of it is man-made under the same purpose. Okay, but is it natural? Well, that depends on your definition of natural. I'd be inclined to say it is technologically based in most cases.
Just adds to the mystique of the moon, my man. Thinking that there's actually going on there. All right,
well,
let's sneak.
There's been things going on the moon since before man ever came into existence. Never mind into power.
Well, there's some truth to that, my man. Do we have time for one more?
That would be your department.
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we do, Keith. We're just gonna, chat away here until it's time to go to break, because it is the top of the hour with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. We got some amazing questions from our audience members in our YouTube channel and other social media popping out and up here, and we're going to keep that going for the night, because that's what we do here. R Keith Andrews' final appearance of 2024. We'll see him again the first week of January in 2025. We love it that he's here. The ET Connection continues right after this, everybody. Stay tuned. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Keith, I'll be right back, okay? I'm just going to put you in the green room. All right, where'd that go? I'm dropping everything today. Okay, I'll be right back, everyone. All right. I am back. Let's get our Keith back in here. Big thank you tonight to Cosmic Joe, Richard, Mel WD40, Backspin, Marty, Walter, and Lenda for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love, everybody. And Bombshell Bomber is wanting to be a flower girl at your when you get married. Oh, let's see here. Miss any questions? Miss anybody? Paul Demon, how you doing? Alien Believers, nice to see you. Paramarv, I know you're driving. I will get to your questions here, bud. And we got 15 seconds here. Thank you, Deb and Richard, for the super chats.
And you're cutting out periodically.
Here we go. Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us as we bring you the exciting woo of R Keith Andrews. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? Well, that word is habilitory. Habilitory is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continues right now as we are taking audience questions, as we normally do with Keith. And Keith, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Can you believe we're about to hit that other funny little anniversary you did?
Let's go to Latchkey. Are there any alien races that have been on Earth longer than modern humans, Homo sapiens sapiens?
Absolutely. The Moldocs have been here. Well, the Moldocs, the Laborians, the Elephant were actually built here. But your Moldocs, your Laborians, let me see who else has been here consistently. There's a number, like the Waylash aren't exactly, well, yeah, they are. You have your Waylash. The list is quite extensive to non-human, actual alien residents that arrived from another planet.
Okay.
You know, it depends on how far before mankind goes that you want to look back.
How far back?
Martokians have been coming. Well, the Martokians were coming here before man was even a thought.
All right. Let's go to another question here. Let's go to necessary dialogue. Do ETs have empathy?
Some. Just like humans. Some humans have empathy. Some don't. Some ETs have sympathy for the human condition. You know, I mean, it's amazing the similarities. There are so many more similarities between off-worlders and humans than there are differences. The biggest difference tends to be technological advancement.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Human Carl here. Keith, when you pass over, do you always go towards the light, or do you sometimes venture elsewhere on your own?
If we're referring to me, you name the variable, what humans call heaven and hell, I've been to, amongst a number of other places. People keep telling me, why do you keep coming back? And I just look at them and go, well, God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over. So I end up getting shipped out again.
Oh, that's hilarious. Hilarious. Let's move on here. Let's go to Derek. R. Keith, do you know where the main entrance is to Inner Earth?
The short answer is yes. The main entrance to Inner Earth is birth. In other words, the species that live down there are reproducing. And that's where you get the majority of people down there. But I presume you're referring to the one that humans can theoretically get to. There's a hiccup with that one. Because it's also got a security system that won't let you get into it.
Where is it?
Well, the short answer is I'm not going to tell you specifically. I will tell you that the North and South Pole are both intriguing little setups, but they're certainly not a good access point.
Okay, let's go to Cosmic Joe. What alien beings would make a great pet?
Are we talking alien animal, or are we talking alien sentient species?
Whatever.
Because, well, alien sentient species, I wouldn't recommend turning into a pet. Alien animals, it depends on what you're looking for, because most alien animals, Chupacabra is an interesting alien animal. Okay, most of the ones from another planet, though, don't play by the same rules that humans do. If a terrestrial dog gets upset, it might nip you. Okay, if some of these races turn around and get upset with you, they'll just straight out eat you. Which I'm thinking depletes the idea of them being a pet.
All right, let's go to Steve. How did you learn all of your profound knowledge of ETs?
Most of it is because of the fact I've been around for a very long time. But when I talk about what I've come up here with, it's been firsthand experience. As in face-to-face dealing with these guys. Now, of course, we have to remember, my past lives I still remember, and I've been dealing with them for a lot of centuries. So I have not amassed all of this information in one lifetime. Although the ones I'm going into detail documenting, I'm still in contact with. But that's where, most of it, like, I don't bother researching that.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go to another question from our audience. Let's head over to Jennifer. Other than the alien beings, are there other animals, mammals, reptiles, etc. on other planets?
Oh, heavens, yeah. There's even, there are, aside from an entire ecosystem where you've got animals, plants, insects, the whole 9 yards, they're there on other planets as well. Okay. If you go to the Reticulan star cluster, you don't want to go wandering around in the woods. This is just a bad idea. At least on Earth, then what'll kill you is only certain of the animals. On the in the reticular star cluster, half the plants will eat you. If you go to the Swazian homeworld, their sandstorms will quite comfortably consume you. Never mind strip your bones clean. They'll just consume you on principle. So, I mean, people talk about Earth having dangerous animals. Not really. It gets even worse when the planet itself starts to react. But yeah, when you're looking at another planet, you gotta remember, they have an entire ecosystem based on their own environment, based on their own evolutionary path.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go over to Blue Cruise. Any interaction with any snail, slug, leech, alien, extraterrestrial species, or slimy off-worlders?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the name. I do know. And there you go. The answer is yes. I know of an alien race. I can't think of it offhand. I can't think of the name offhand. That is very similar to a slug. Okay. And of course, when you take a look at which ones are they now? I am not doing well on pulling names here. Oh, there we go. Didn't even get the book open. The Udina, of course, are constantly wet. Okay. And that being the reason for that is they happen to live in the water. Always. Like they never come out of the water. So, when you're looking at that, the difficult part for people to see, it seems to be the difficult part, is for people to realize that a bipedal, semi-rigid form is not the common. That's not the common thing. Okay, it's just a situation of humans have a very easy to repair, a very disease susceptible race. Okay. And many of these people, when you start taking a look at them, the Corlock, for instance, if you actually take hold of one, feel very slimy. Okay. When you take a look at, I believe it's the Zeoplani, who have a very well, the term slimy does come to mind, because they quite seriously turn around, and if you shake their hand, they're going to eat it. That's their one method of eating. So yeah, their handshake is going to be slimy. It's always covered in digestive fluid. But that's how they do it. That's how they eat.
All right, let's move on here, buddy. Let's go over to, let's see here. Let's go to Sweet Donna C. If I have hybrid kids, would the ETs caring for them need to consult me to help with parental advice from a human perspective?
Not at all. Don't get me wrong. Some of them will. Is it a requirement? No. They've got enough history where they actually understand human hybrids require certain leeways and certain extra guidance. Not the least of which is that human hybrids have a tendency of having a much higher level of curiosity than other races.
All right. We can continue on. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, by all means.
Let's go to Paramarv. Some folks believe that the aliens are demonic or demons deceiving the humans. Your thoughts?
Absolute hogwash. They are no more demons, deceiving humans as a species go than humans are. I mean, humans, certainly there are people out there are humans that are absolute doorknobs, and I believe that's a polite way to put it, that will absolutely sit there and lie to you, deceive you without even thinking about it. Other species have individuals of their own, but the reality is they are not, as a species, number one, they're not demonic to start with, unless you want to call the demons demonic with a mispronunciation, but you can work with what you will. But no, they are not evil spirits here to mislead people.
Let's go to Derek. R. Keith, what is the alien race that multiplies when water gets on them?
That is a wonderful rendition of the Gremlins. And they don't actually multiply they don't actually multiply when you cover them with water. But it was a fantastic story. This is one of those races that wasn't based essentially on an actual species that I'm aware of.
Let's go to.
I do know, and I don't know that for whatever reason. I'm having a hell of a time finding trouble. I can tell you that when you take a look, there you are, the econ are born pregnant. Getting them wet simply makes them pregnant and wet. Okay, but you gotta understand the econ are a primary food source for their planet. Okay, and they are absolutely forbidden to be moved anywhere off the planet.
Keith, you froze up.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Keith, your computer is freezing up on us.
That doesn't somehow shock me. But
all right.
There is no race I know of that reproduces just because it gets wet. However, the econ are a race that is born pregnant. They reproduce faster than anything. But you got to remember, they are a primary food source on their planet of many different species. This is why they are absolutely, just like we talk about invasive species on Earth, the econ are considered an intergalactic invasive species. So they don't even let them get moved.
Okay, let's go to another question. Let's go to Linda. Is there a difference between aliens from underwater and aliens from space?
Only in as much as where they originated. Because true aliens, as in what I call off-worlders, some will set up on ground, some will set up underwater. But there are ancient races, which are races that evolved on Earth. And that's where I put the differentiation. If they evolved on Earth, I refer to them as ancient races. If they evolved off Earth, they are referred to by me anyway as off-worlders for obvious reasons. As in they come from off-world.
Okay, let's go to another one. Let's go to Baba 200. Welcome to SOR Chat. When and what was your last firsthand experience?
That would have to be dealing, and it wasn't dealing with off-worlders. The last off-worlders I dealt with were with the Xenon. We're still trying to educate them into the idea of eradicating bionomes is a bad idea, because the Xenon are an absolutely mineral-based mechanical race. Okay, they mimic bionomes, but they see bios as an inferior race. So we are still working really hard to bring their education up and bring the flaw in their logic to the light, so they realize you kill off all the bionomes and your evolution stops. And given some of the other things that are out there, this is a bad idea for them. My last ancient race involvement went to dealing with ET herself, who is Mother Earth, Gaia, Mother Nature. I know her as ET. She's a Gaboran. And I recently had to go and deal with her cousin by the name of Takan, who is another Gaboran that is currently in trouble.
What happened?
Well, she's got we'll call it an infestation.
Oh, weird.
She's got problems on her own end. I mean, take a look at humans when the killer bees got out of hand. Now, picture that on a planetary assault level. But there are ways of dealing with that. All you got to do is modify the harmonics and the problem's over.
Here we go with another question. Let's go over to Jay Truthseeker. What are the most scariest sharks in the universe like? Are there hungry shark aliens out there we would ever have to worry about?
Well, whether you have to worry about them is up to you. There are shark-like races out there that will literally eat planets. Okay. So I'm not sure if you call that scary. I call it rather complicated for humans. I've also run into races where if you take a look at the shark designation, there are ones like that will go through a bloodstream and take every nutrient out of the organism. So it depends on where your level of fear is. Take science fiction, push it as far as you can probably find something that'll startle you.
Okay, we got 45 seconds. Let's go to necessary dialogue. Are tall whites part human?
No. Tall whites are a whole different ballgame. Those are Aldebaran. And the Aldebaranians were never... were they on Earth? Certainly, but they weren't, if you will, of Earth. If you look at the Anunnaki evolved on Earth, but they called for help to get off the land because they knew if they stayed, the human race would not survive. And besides that, they were too big for the environment.
And on that note, Keith, we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. We have until the top of the hour. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Well, Big Dog, we're hoping that your schedule is cleared for May 1st to 4th because Merle, myself, we're just going to party and everyone's invited. R Keith may come. Little Timmy James is going to be there. Sweet Robbie G, extra small Lee Strauss, Kira is going to be there. R Keith's Kira will likely be there if they can make it. Ane Shin is going to be there. Who else? Jackie Harmon is going to be there. Many, many others. We're just going to party, people. There's no show, no fan party. We're just going to hang out. And we want all of you there, May 1st to 4th. Don't have a location yet. We're debating New York, or maybe the Rio or somewhere else. We'll figure it out. We're good that way. Yeah. So come. It's that easy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be interesting. We just have to put the money together to do it. And of course, we need to know where we're going.
Yeah, that will always help.
Yeah.
Holy cow, Greg Maloney. The Thailand terror strikes there very well. Wow. Thanks, buddy. I know you want the fan party in Thailand really, really bad, too. Big Dog with a hat trick. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, we'd love to have you there. Laura Dominguez, how are you? Now remember, that's Thai baht. That's not American dollars. That equals out to about $41 Canadian. But still incredible. Thank you, Greg. Very much appreciate your love. I would love to see Thailand. Baht is their currency, BHAT. Thailand is actually on my list of places to want to go. Oob to Joe's Maine, you got to come to Vegas. All right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all the questions. There's literally about 20 questions, 23 questions, 18 questions, something like that. Let me just count. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 questions, Keith. I think that'll be enough for the last half hour.
Okay. Yeah, we will do our best.
Yeah. All right. Big thank you.
We're not on
Greg, Steve, Richard ×2, Deborah Rooney, Marty, Walter, Lenda, Backspin, Mel WD40, and Cosmic Joe for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love, everybody. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out. And we go from there. No ugly swag. There is a poll going on in our Facebook group if you're coming to Vegas or not. So make sure you check it on out. Here we go. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Some people think Earth boys and Earth girls are easy when you're talking aliens. We're going to find out from R Keith Andrews here momentarily. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives. Go to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. R Keith Andrews, the ET Connection, continues till the top of the hour. Keith, we are filled with questions. Deb wants to know, do aliens think Earth girls are easy?
That quite frankly is a individual question. It's got nothing to do with any individual race. And it really boils down to whether the girl in question follows that designation on their own accord.
That's a good answer, my man. Let's just leave it at that. Let's go to Big Dog. Why should people be concerned over the serious things of aliens? Why should we be concerned, Keith?
Well, this is going to make it complicated.
Why should we be concerned?
The real serious things doesn't make much sense to be concerned about. I'd be more worried about buying into the fear-mongering I see taking place on this planet than what I see out there. Because I can't tell you how many people have said, oh, we're due for an alien invasion. Not going to happen. Now, I may be wrong, absolutely. But that's kind of like worrying about whether or not the planet's going to be broken in half. You're not going to be able to do anything with it. If we were looking at some sort of invasion, frankly, it'd be over before anybody even knew it was started. I find worrying about a lot of the rhetoric that gets put in a lot of the chat rooms, especially under the category of either alien invasion or politics. The amount of rhetoric that should be discarded is absolutely incredible. But people can be worried about it if they'd like. I just figure there's not much point, so I don't bother.
Makes sense. Okay, Keith, we got a race on the questions here now. Let's go to Blue Cruise. Any multi-headed alien ET species?
Yes. There are races that are born with multiple heads. I mean, if you have literally 8 eyes, okay. You look at the Sparenoctin have multiple legs. When you look at the Vulcans, they are literally a tripod race. So, I mean, the list goes on. If your imagination can conceive it, the odds are there's somebody out there that's got it. That's the easiest way I can put it.
Let's go to Latchkey. Are aliens responsible for the implants Dr. Roger Lear removed from patients? If so, are abductions required to implant them in humans?
two factors. I cannot speak to whether they are responsible for the ones that Dr. Greer removed. I frankly wasn't present. However, I do usually require direct interaction. I can't, like I said, I can't speak directly to whether Dr. Greer pulled it were implanted by aliens, but I can tell you that aliens do make implants. So do humans.
All right.
You know, that's
Let's
so. I
let's
mean,
go.
the reality is, I'm not linked to the government in any form that I'm aware of, at least not to the human one. And I'm certainly not a member of any of the alien governments.
All right, let's go to Andromedan. What do you think of the Andromedans, Keith?
You keep vanishing on me, Dave.
It's on your side, Keith. It's not on my side. Our audio is good here. The Andromedan is asking, what do you think of the Andromedans?
Well, I'm going to go with this. Well, apparently not.
Keith, can you hear me okay?
You back, Dave?
I'm back. It's this
At
on
this
your
moment,
computer.
yes.
Okay, what do you think of the Andromedans?
Actually, as a people, they're great. Very technologically advanced. Very, they have a lot of intriguing culture. On the whole, they're decent people. There are individuals that are problematic, certainly. But on the whole, I like them.
Okay, let's continue. Let's go to SG. Do you think most of these abductees, such as myself, have gone through some sort of time travel at some point?
Highly improbable. And what I can tell you is that none have gone forward in time and come back, or more to the point, none have come back. Okay, because reverse time travel, coming back in time, doesn't work. Okay, it's just that simple. And I know what people are talking about from that end. You can travel forward in time, which is fine. You just can't come back once you've done it. So, no. The abductions, the closest you're going to get there is being implanted with a false memory of time travel. Because time travel across the cosmos doesn't work. And by the way, when I'm referring to across the cosmos, I'm referring to across dimensions. Time travel does not go backwards anywhere. The reason for that is it would tear reality apart completely. So no, there is no organization like time cops or anything like that to stop people from doing it. It just doesn't occur.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go to one random guy. Have fallen angels created gray aliens?
No. Gray aliens, number one, the first ones evolved, and then they simply reproduced. Okay, the so-called fallen angels are an intriguing concept, but they've got absolutely nothing, from what I've ever come to understand. And some of my closest friends happen to be Angelos. They are not responsible for the evolution of any race. No, like none that I'm aware of at all.
Okay. Let's get to another one here. Let's go over to Blue Cruise. Are there any alien ETs that emit a horrible smell or stench?
Oh, Lord, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like asking, are there any animals on Earth that emit a horrible or immense stench? let's take a look. You look at the reality of it. We got skunks. Not the most appealing scent. And you got to remember, a bad scent is usually a self-defense mechanism. If it's bad enough, it's also an attack, or a form of attack. But they absolutely exist that way.
Derek is asking, Keith, what alien race is the biggest advocate all around for humanity?
That'd be the Sazosians. Reptilian warriors, born with immense respect and an incredible amount of honor. 7.5 to 8.5 feet tall when they're adults. They are here as allies of humans. So yes, there are many of them on Earth, just not out in public. Okay, really nice people, but I will tell you, because of where they come from, they can very accidentally kill you. And I mean, literally, they can do it by accident. That's why they have to train so much before they come here.
Paul
But they
is
are your.
Paul
Right.
is wondering, what happens if I take the red pill and the blue pill?
You have a purple pill.
Christine wants to know, some people say the poles are going to shift soon and that we should prepare for it. Is this true?
Number one, they're talking the magnetic poles. And the answer is, yeah, they are going to shift again. It happens once, as far as I understand, about once every 360,000 years, which means it's about 30,000 years overdue. That said, good luck preparing. It's a natural phenomenon. It's got nothing to do with anything except it's a natural phenomenon. When it happens, whoever is alive at that point will have to cope with it. And I'll let your imagination, your own research tell you what's going to happen if you flip the magnetosphere around.
Paramarv wants to know, Keith, some people believe that aliens are demonic or demon and are trying to deceive the humans. How would you answer that?
That's simple. No, but thanks for playing. The reality is there are some that are bad people, absolutely, but they are not here to deceive humans. Politely put, in most aliens' opinions, if you were to take a poll, more than half of them believe that humans are extremely curious and dumber than fence posts and way too caught up in their own self-importance. And like I said, this is according to the majority of the alien races on the whole. Now, this does not mean people are not valuable. Everybody has a value. I'm just not known for being subtle.
All right, let's move on. Let's go over to Blue Cruise. Does Earth's space orbit have any effect on how often or how many alien ET species visit our planet at any given time?
Only regarding the Martokians. Every time Mars hits its closest connection to Earth in the orbital path, every time their field trips jump by 300%. As far as the rest of the races go, no, it's got no bearing.
All right. Mel WD40 is asking, Keith, what is the origins of the moon?
It was built to manage the tides on Earth. It was when Earth was first put together. Okay, when Earth itself was put together, the moon was built in place to handle the gravimetric shift and encourage tidal flow, thereby permitting the evolution of life. The evolution of life as we know it on Earth. Now, in answer to that other question, goes hand in hand. I watched them do it. Good luck proving that one. Or disproving it for that matter.
Proving, disproving. What is the idea behind that? All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Derek. Abilitor, a Middle English word that means the ability to do something or okay, I don't know. That's not a question, so we're just going to get rid of that one. Let's go to Paramarv. He's got a pair. If given the opportunity, would you want to testify to one of the congressional communities that have been holding hearings?
Want to, I don't know, but would I be willing to? The answer is yes. Because there's a lot of things I hear coming out of that don't make sense. So yeah, if somebody wants to get me invited and set things up, let me know.
All right, let's go back to Paramarv. Have you ever been given information about Atlantis, such as where it was, is, and what happened to it?
Well, I don't know if you would call it given information. I was there when it had the problem and when it left Earth. So yeah, I got a fair piece of information, but it wasn't given to me. I spent a lifetime there. Apparently the wrong one. You know.
Where do you think it is?
At this point, it is likely no longer in orbit. It's been a while, but it ended up in orbit and actually had a rescue ship come to bed to put it back together to take it home. See, we call it Atlantis, but the reality of it was that when they arrived here, the locals asked where they were from, and they said, "We're from the Atlantia." The Atlantia was not Atlantis. It wasn't a different system. It was their primary ship. Okay, and yes, there were 12 other there were 12 other ships set around the world. Okay, one of which, by the way, was down in what we call Antarctica. They just called it cold, but it's set down here because of a complication with their own engines. So they set down here because they had no option, and then they just stayed put for a while. But it left because of sabotage, or more to the point, it got off planet because of sabotage. I've got a whole chunk of information on that, and we really don't have that much time for that right now. But it's a great question.
All right, we got 5.5 minutes left, Keith. Let's go over to Jennifer, who has one here. Are there ETs with multi-body parts, eyes, legs, arms, etc.?
We covered that one earlier. But the short answer is yes.
All right, let's go to her second question. Are there ETs that walk on all fours like some mammals do?
Absolutely. And there are some that can move at one heck of a higher pace. There are off-worlders that walk on 3, 2, 1, 6. You get the idea.
Are any of them
is the most unbalanced form.
Are there any of them here?
The Vulcans are already here. Vulcans are they've got a what's it called? They've got 3 limbs, 3 legs, 3 arms. Okay, and they literally reproduce. They have a trinary. They have 3 actual species, or 3 actual genders. Okay, there's another one, I can't remember the name offhand, that is exactly the same way. But they are offshoot of the Earth elemental. Now what the heck are they called? Oh, the Corvor. No, Korbor are a dwarven race. Anyway, there is, they are an off, and there is multiple races like that.
All right, Keith, let's go over to, let's see here, as we got about 3.5 minutes. Let's go to Paul. Is this a prison or a zoo?
No. How's that for subtle? Earth is an ecosystem unto itself. Okay, it is not a prison. We are not isolated. We are not protected as in, or we're not quarantined. Because mankind is on the verge of developing a one world government, humans are considered a protected species in as much as they must be permitted to evolve of their own accord. So they are protected, but this is not a zoo. This is not a prison. But I mean, let's face it, if it were a prison, it's a pretty poorly run one. Because humans keep leaving the earth. Okay, and if it were a prison, we certainly wouldn't have abductions taking place. This is where logic has got to be brought back into the world. Okay, now if it makes you feel any better, there are planets that will take humans and put them in a zoo. So yeah, there is a black market for that venue. And it's called a black market because it's actually not permitted.
Okay, I think we got time for one more. Let's go to Operation Shutdown. Keith, have you ever had interaction with Bigfoot?
Yes. When I was about 4 years old, I actually ran into a family of them. Really gentle people. In a nutshell, I got lost out of the campsite, and one of the teenagers took me to the mother and to his mom and dad, who got me calmed down. And once we figured out how to communicate, their father, the father took me back to the edge of my campsite and pushed me back into the clearing so that I could be returned to mom and dad. You know, this is why I look at Bigfoot and go, they are one of the nicest groups of people that you'll ever run into.
I still think they're from outer space.
That's okay. We will have to agree to disagree with that one for as long as we've known each other and known about the discrepancy.
Hey, it's not my fault. It's not my fault you're wrong on that one.
Hey, I'm military. I know how to pass the buck, so it's not my fault.
Keith, we got 45 seconds left with you tonight, and it is always a pleasure to have you on this show. 2024 was great to have you back on. It was great to see you a couple of times this year, both in Reno and Kelowna, British Columbia. Do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find your YouTube channel.
At R Keith Andrews. Obviously on YouTube. But you track me down there, or if you're looking for me more directly, track down Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca. On YouTube, you can find all kinds of ways of getting a hold of me.
That's right. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we're going to head to the swamp. And then we're going to talk some drone action with extra small Lee Strauss. We're going to have a great time with him as well. Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 3 next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy. We'll let you get back to Kira.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Much love. You have a great Christmas. Okay. We'll talk to you before that, though.
Absolutely, Dave. You take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. R Keith Andrews, everybody. Gotta love him. That's our man around here. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. We are back. Let's bring in Extra Small here. Where'd you get that shirt?
It's a demo. Had it made. I was wondering if it would work out.
Send me the pattern. I'll put that on the store.
Yes, exactly. That's my thought.
Hi, Marie Palmer. How are you? And I think that's everybody. All right. Thank you to all of our super chatters tonight. Big Dog ×4. We got Greg, Deborah Rooney ×2, Steve, Richard ×2, Linda, Walter, Marty, Joe, Mel WD40, and Backspin. Thank you very much for the love and support, everybody. Greatly appreciate it. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Lee, Swamp Dweller is about 5 minutes long, so we'll talk to you soon. Here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Habilitory. Habilitory is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. Now, before I begin this story, let me first start by clarifying that alligators are not native to Michigan, which is what made me so skeptical about believing this legend until I had an in-person encounter with him, the Michigan Gator Man. A little backstory on my family. We recently purchased a house in a small town in Michigan's Upper Thumb. Caseville, Michigan was a quiet beach town famously known for its cheeseburger festival. It seemed like a family-friendly town and a perfect place to spend summers. Everything was excellent the first year or so of living there, and then we began to hear whispers around town about the legend of what I was supposed to believe was the Gator Man. We figured it was some form of hazing that people did to new people in town and brushed it off. On the 4th of July, the town had fireworks, and about 12 of us decided to sit on the sand to view them. Our street had access to a private beach, so we were the only ones there that night. Everyone else was on the public side of the beach in the distance. My cousins and I were having a great time, actually, dancing to the music and just goofing off in general. Then, we hear something coming towards us in the distance. It's a low growling sound. We stare, but we don't see much because it's very dark along the water. Either way, there's a big group of us, so we weren't too terribly threatened by it. At this point, the crickets stopped chirping, and any voices in the distance became muted. Even the waves of Lake Huron seemed to hush. It became dead silent. My cousin Kurt points toward a low growling sound, and he says that there were two yellow glowing eyes growing in size as something was coming towards us. The loud crash of fireworks pulled our attention away from whatever it was, and when we looked back, it was seemingly gone. We began watching the fireworks show and soon forgot all about it. Our attention is pulled away from the fireworks as sand flies over our heads from behind us. All of us whip our heads around to see it. A figure of a man stands in the dark. Only once the flash of fireworks illuminates him enough to see what he truly is. His skin seemed to glow in the light. He looked skinny, almost scaly. We couldn't get a great look at him because of our light source. It was flashing in and out, of course. The grand finale of the fireworks began, and we glanced away for just a split second. And suddenly, a splash of the water happened. This weird man was gone. After the fireworks show ended, we all decided this was pretty creepy and didn't stay at the beach for much longer. I tried to rationalize how he looked in the light, and maybe just thought he had a nasty sunburn or some sort of, skin burns or something like that. The following day, we headed back to the beach to look for any evidence that could bring some sense to the situation, and just to be safe, we got our dog with us. What we found made our skin crawl. Leading from the sand to the water was what I could only describe as gator tracks. But here's the kicker. A piece of driftwood was floating in the water next to where the tracks led, and it looked to have some sort of odd scratches and bite marks on it. I moved to get a closer look, and my dog instantly began growling and refused to walk any closer. This made me uncomfortable enough to listen and to head back to the house as fast as possible and get as far away from these tracks as I could. That night, my cousin and I decided to go back to the beach for an evening swim, but mostly to look for the gator man. I now understand that this wasn't the brightest idea, but we were bored and wanted to figure this thing out. We reached the sand, using our phone flashlights to look for any sort of evidence, but we didn't find anything interesting, so we swam in the water. We were in the water until our cousin felt something brush up against her leg. As our initial shock was settling in, our eyes began adjusting to the dark water. We saw some air bubbles and immediately felt the tension in the air. A tall figure slowly emerges from the water in the moon's light. Those same yellow glowing eyes met mine for a not-so-appreciated second time. He was angry, and we needed to leave this water. We knew immediately this was his beach, and he had the upper hand, especially in the water. We booked it back to the house, never looking back to see if it was following us. I still can't visit that beach to this day. I still see those glowing yellow eyes when I close my own. I don't know what the Michigan Gator Man wants, but I feel sorry for those who find out.
Thank you to Swamp Dweller for another great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller, and you got thousands of stories just like that to check out. It's great entertainment, especially when you're heading off to sleep. Here comes Lee.
Oh, hello, Jackie.
Major Lee, what's happening, my man?
Hey, man. It's going great. A lot of things going on in the news lately, that's for sure. Daily.
Oh, yeah. I hear that.
Almost hourly.
Well, you know what? I'm going to be blunt here for a second because I do want to get into this topic with you tonight about these drones. One thing when things happen that I try and tell our audience on a nightly basis, whether they're on our terrestrial radio stations or whether they're on our YouTube channel, Twitch, X, wherever we're broadcasting, even on our podcast networks. One thing that I always like to do, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else because I'm not. Okay, but one thing that I like to do is I like to sit back the minute something breaks like that. Sit back, analyze it, and try and figure out the logic behind it. And there was a number of things that we had kind of gone over on this show, both Tim and I and others, in talking about this. And the more it was analyzed, the more some things started to make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number one, if you are an adversary of the United States, You are not putting lights on your drone.
Nope.
Number two, we are seeing a profound effort of the government trying to say, we don't know what these things are.
That's correct.
Number three, it was a little too coincidental that all of this really started to pick up steam right after the two hearings.
Yep. What I'm seeing is this rash of drone sightings, as they like to call them. I'm going to say that not all of them are drones, but this rash of drone sightings is probably put out there to squash any of the other things that may have been forecasted to be seen at a certain time, if you know what I mean.
Here's what's coming down in the news today. There's a company out of New Jersey that actually works with drones.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been kind of put out there that this company that could be potentially responsible for the drone incursions is a company called Sky Gear Media. They are a specialist drone operation company that provides personal provision for large-scale aerial projects with unmanned aircraft. Their focus is providing drone capabilities to perform anything from maritime and public safety operations to helping with post-crisis or telecom surveys, to include surveying large towers and post-storm damage. That's one of them. News Nation came out today saying that they believe, and their sources are saying, that a lot of these drone incursions, especially at sensitive areas, whether it's Trump's golf course, whether it's army bases, whether it's nuclear power facilities, that these drones are actually military tests to see how radar operators are easily and swiftly able to pick up these drones, which is something we've been stating for about the last week to 10 days as well. It just makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but why would they choose it? Why would they choose for this to come out now? Why would they choose this specific time to do these tests? Is it so that if something was seen because it was forecasted to be seen, that they could say, hey, listen, these are just drones, right? Even the things that look, like a typical UFO, which they also have captured. I think it's like plausible deniability for them. It's like, anything now that is seen in the sky, it's a drone. It's a drone, even though it's stayed aloft. These things have stayed aloft for up to 3 hours at a time. I'm not aware currently of any drones that can stay aloft for 3 hours, but hey, this might be new tech that I'm not aware of. I mean, they are car-sized drones that have been seen, so maybe that's possible.
And you know what? I can see that point. I can totally see that point, Lee, regarding, are there things flying out there that we don't know? It's possible. More people are looking into the sky than ever. Because remember, there's only one sky. Skies is not plural. The sky is not plural because there's only one sky out there. Sorry, my red pen for the evening, right? But just to add to that, though, there is a possibility there has been UFOs caught within that. But we also have to remember, too, UFOs can blink right out of sight. We're not seeing that with these drone incursions. Yes, we are hearing that their lights have been turning off. But we also, or I'm going to put this in my terms because it's my perspective, and I'll get your perspective on this. Yeah. We also have to remember that in the last 2.5 years or 2 years, we have seen drone warfare become probably one of the most effective pieces of warfare ever. Probably since the invention of the airplane going into in the battles of World War I, World War II. Maybe different. I don't know. Other people, I'm not military savvy when it comes to things like that. But I would say this, that how are you going to test your systems and your radar if you're not putting drones in that area? Now,
Yeah.
we're focusing on the East Coast, but there are reports of these drones flying all over military bases across the U.S. because this is now a potential threat narrative, and an easy one.
Well, yeah, not only that, Dave, but they're being spotted over airports right now, too. And why would the government put a drone into the airspace of an airport? That sounds very counterintuitive to me. You know, obviously, once that sort of thing happens, they're going to shut down the airport until the threat is gone.
True, but it's like those flying men in Los Angeles. Remember, they were shutting down airways of LAX, the guy with the jetpack, and they've never found jetpack guy. They've never arrested jetpack guy. And that was happening quite frequently there for a little bit a couple of years ago. And I think it's because they want to be able to test their systems. Plus, we also have to remember there's always copycats out there. There's always that person who, we haven't seen it yet on any YouTube channel that we know of, but there's always that person who's looking for that million hit TikTok or that million hit YouTube video that they're going to be able to monetize and gain subscribers with. And what better way to do it than to copycat what we're seeing in the sky? People are freaking out right now who've been following this story thinking it's aliens. It's not aliens, though.
You know, Dave, I would say that maybe 10% of what people saw out there was possibly aliens, and the other 90% were US or drones of some sort. I only heard of one case in all of this UFO flap that's been going on lately where there's been helicopters going after the so-called drone that they called it. So maybe that was a police department or whatever was tracking this drone and trying to get it out of the sky, not knowing that military base had it up for testing purposes or something like that. So out of all the cases that have been going on for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, there was just that one that I heard of where it looked like a helicopter was going after this drone. So if that's the case, then and we didn't launch any fighters to go after anything that was up in the sky over these military bases, that tells me that most definitely it was our government in the mass majority of the cases. And because there was supposed to be an alien war or whatever it was supposed to be out there, maybe they just figured, well, we'll go ahead and throw up all these drones and all this stuff. Let's do this at this time, because if there is anything caught in the sky, because people are going to be looking, and they were, obviously, because of all the video and photos and everything that we've seen, maybe they thought that this would be a good time to do it so that they could say, look, UFOs aren't real. These are drones.
And this is where the UAP argument comes into play. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at what they've been saying, the military people and the people they've interviewed, they've been saying that these UAP are not UFOs.
Yeah.
And they've confirmed that the UAP are some sort of drone. Man-made objects. What have we been saying for years on this show? There is a major difference between UAP and UFO.
That's correct. I totally 100% agree with you. That's exactly what it means. Of course, they don't want to let it out in those exact words, but that's what it is. It's a man-made aircraft that cannot be identified. That's all that means.
I think a lot of other things too, Lee. So we got about 4 minutes to go before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We also tend to forget we don't know the technology the United States government has. Okay. One of my sources once told me that at least 90% of what we see flying in the sky that we perceive could be a UFO is actually ours. That's scary to think, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they are. I've heard some estimates, and I might be off about a couple years, but I've heard that they're probably, our government is probably 40 years ahead of what we know. And to think about how fast technology moves 40 years from now, holy cow. I mean, they could be doing stuff like creating their own wormholes and that sort of thing to traverse from one side of the planet to the other in a split second or blink of an eye. I mean, with AI and everything that we have now, they could be doing who knows what 40 years would be, you know?
Jesse Waters on Fox News reporting tonight that sources were telling them there's a possibility that these drones are actually very advanced military craft and that the Pentagon's testing these drones over friendly American territory. See, that's where he goes. That's exactly what we've been talking about. And I hate to sound like a broken record, once again, I hate to sound like a broken record on this stuff, and once again, I hate to sound like a broken record. No, I'm teasing you. but we do have to admit that until the US military comes out and shows off a lot of their toys, this speculation is going to continue. People are going to be hitting that panic button that there is something otherworldly coming through here. And that's a dangerous thought because, one of the things Dr. Stephen Greer said a while ago, as in a couple of years ago, he was very worried. And I don't put in a lot of stock about what he says, but one of the things that he stated was that he was worried about an alien false flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could we be heading to that?
It's possible. But I think more likely right now, they just want to squash any of that UFO talk by sending up all these drones and, and then tying it back with a little piece of thread back to this company that's putting these aircraft together, that's putting these systems together. That way they can say, hey, it's just a drone. There's no such thing as UFOs.
Now, out of all the things that you have filmed in the sky, you have a pretty candid eye. You probably record, I'm going to say, anywhere between 50 and 200 UFOs a year where you are. Okay. Now, maybe I'm exaggerating on that number a little bit. Okay. But with 20 seconds to go, can you tell the difference out of everything you've seen in the sky over the years?
I've done a lot of research within the last 14 years of all the craft that I've seen and known objects. And I would say I really, really try hard to nail it down.
All right, my friend, hold on right there.
Yep.
We're going to go to our final break of the night. Lee Strauss filling in for Jackie Harmon, who's parading tonight.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right. Lee, I'm not wrong. You're wrong, Dave. UAP and UFO are the same acronym. Is irrelevant. That's not what I said whatsoever. And it is extremely relevant because the government has been hiding everything under the UAP acronym. And I don't know whether you got too much toothpaste in your eyeballs or you just aren't Q-tipping enough and hearing properly. But you're wrong on this one again. Then he goes, man-made with tech, ET tech. I never said that. Did I say that, Lee?
No, sir.
No, I said this was human tech. These aren't UFOs. So,
well, they're not moving as such. They move like drones from everything that I've seen. For the mass majority of the things that are being caught on film right now.
mm-hmm.
Now, I will tell you, as a child with my father, because he was a plane buff, and my grandfather built Boeing planes. I mean, he was a chief engineer. My dad, we'd go to the airport here in Seattle, SeaTac, and we would watch planes take off and we'd watch planes land. That was fun for my father. That was fun for me to do with him. So I kind of got used to, my dad saying, well, that's a Cessna 1865 or whatever like that. He was really familiar with aircraft. So as a child, I learned what an aircraft looks like. Coming into land, taking off, what it looks like in the sky. I got to understand, I got to learn what civilian aircraft and their blinking patterns or their navigation light patterns, what that looks like versus a military aircraft. And it's a different pattern that they flash. Those things that they had up in the sky, those drones did not exhibit those patterns of flashing. It was a totally different pattern. But I am definitely going to say they were, for all intents and purposes, they were drones.
Mm-hmm. I can totally see that. Totally see that. Right? That just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes sense.
There's more to the story, and I'm sure you know this thought, and we haven't spoken about this. But, if they can say, well, there's possible threats.
Hey, Lee.
Yeah.
Lee. Paramarv, thank you. I've been wondering. It sounds like you're coming through your computer mic and not your microphone.
Let's see here.
Hey, sweet Robbie G, how are you?
Let's try this.
Oh, that's way better.
Sorry about that. Moving this whole station around and getting my new digs set up here, which will take a couple weeks, but something must have been clicked.
That's all right. You're sounding good.
Fantastic.
All right. Robbie G, do you have a call-in show after this, buddy? Bombshell Bomber, I didn't see your question. Let me scroll up, see if I have time to find it here. Oh, yeah. Bombshell's saying you look a lot like Les Stroud.
Yes, I get that all the time.
How many autographs have you signed for him?
Not a lot, but I do have people reaching out to me on Facebook all the time, thinking that I am Les Stroud. This is true.
All right. Big thank you to Cosmic Joe, Richard ×2, Mel WD40, Backspin, Marty, Walter, Linda, Deboruni ×2, And Steve, Big Dog ×4, and Greg in Thailand, thank you very much for the love. Mama J, how are you? Don't forget to shop at their Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Here we go. Like 7 seconds. Final half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. We got the report going on with Lee Strauss filling in for Jackie Harmon, who's playing the Grinch in the parade right now. I hate parades, man. They bug me. They just bug me. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We got Lee Strauss here filling in for the parading Jackie Harmon, who is playing the Grinch tonight in the parade. You know what bugs me, Lee? I said this.
What's that?
Not sure you caught it.
What's that?
I'm not sure you caught it, but this bugs me about parades. I hate people. I shouldn't say hate. Hate's a strong word. I can't stand it when people who are participating in a parade and they put on that big fake smile and they wave at me. And then they point at you. They're like, hey. And they don't wave normally. They wave literally like they're being electrocuted. I don't like that. It just, I don't know why. It is just one of those pet peeves that I have in life. Trust me, there are a lot. What's your pet peeve, man?
Well, those people are probably trying to get you excited. My pet peeve right now is the fact that all these drones are in the air and they're saying, hey, look, Congress, what's going on out here? We don't know what's going on. Why don't you start funneling us some more money so that we can protect ourselves better? That's my pet peeve.
I agree.
Yeah, that's seems like that's what they're doing right now. You know, along with everything else, you know, that seems to be part of their agenda. There's a threat narrative, so we better pay attention to that.
These drones that are flying around, we're focusing on the New Jersey area, but they are happening around the United States, north, south, east, west. Okay, when we look at that, why do you think this isn't getting press elsewhere?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I think a lot of news stations are you know, don't want to put this sort of thing out there until they have a full story. I mean, I think lately, as far as the news has been going in the US, people have been getting their neck kind of stomped on a little bit, and maybe they're a little gun shy right now at this moment in time. Especially when it comes to UFOs and that sort of thing. But you can see what's been going on down here. People are having to get on the air and admit, you know, and say that, hey, I'm sorry, I said what I said. It's not true, and this is the facts. Things like that are happening quite often now, and I think people are just a little bit gun shy about putting out some report about UFOs. Let's say, like in California, if something was seen, there's probably going to be, you know, hundreds of people see something, but the local news might not even come out and admit that things were seen at this time, just because, number one, you know, the government could be doing some sort of tests and they don't want to politicize, you know, politicize that, or whatever the case may be. They don't want to get another iron in the fire where they're going to have to retract something.
I get that. I get that. What is your opinion then? Because you love the technology and everything that goes along with it. You are a tech guru.
Mm.
What is your opinion then about the reports that all of a sudden these UFOs are morphing into drones, into airplanes, into larger drones like car-sized drones, into clouds, into cotton candy and vanilla ice cream cones, into Grifter Lee's basement, right?
Into Mylarians too, by the way. A Mylarian is just a Marli, I can't even say it, balloon that's floating through the air that people video. Mylar, thank you. Yeah, Mylarians, you got to watch out for them. But what I think, these morphing, this stuff that morphs, there's a lot of atmospheric type things that can change how something looks. Even depending on how low or how high it is from the horizon line, things can change the perspective of what you're seeing. Not only that, if it's going into a cloud, if it's going, through tree branches, this sort of thing can change the look of something. I haven't seen in any of the stuff that we have looked at, or that I have looked at online, is something that's actually changing shape, other than like something like a plastic bag or something like that floating through the air. You'll see it change shape as it's floating through the air. I have not seen a so-called actual UFO change shape. Like I said, we were talking about Mylar balloons, when they're partially deflated, especially the big ones that they use for atmospheric stuff, atmospheric testing and different things that they do with those balloons. Sometimes those will morph as they're flying through the sky too, because they're not fully inflated when they let those loose. So there's a lot of things that do change shape in the sky, but is it an actual UFO? I can't say that it is. However, I will preface that there have been UFOs that have seen, they tend to like fade out or blink out and disappear as they're moving. I've caught some things like that, but not necessarily changing shape.
Yeah, I've seen them blink out as well. And my favorite ones are when you get these long blinkers that are, that start off, what looks to be miles away, but relatively on the sky chart, it's probably 20, 30 kilometers away, and they blink. And then a little bit later, they blink, but they're closer. And then they blink one again, and then they maybe double blink again. I've had that happen once, where literally I'm literally Eric Markham, who is, behind the scenes with what we do here. He was on the phone with me that night, and I was literally saying, "Can you come over here?" Blink. And it was way off in the distance northeast to us. 19 blinks later, it was over top of my house.
Wow.
And then it did a double blink after it left my house and disappeared.
Yep. I've caught them doing that too. One thing that you're going to see is looking at the night sky, or, dusk sky, is you're going to see, sometimes you'll get an object where you see it flash, and then you'll see it flash again, and then again, and it'll be sort of a rhythmic thing. And so if you can imagine a satellite tumbling through space, and having the solar panels out and the sun catching it right at every, like 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, catching the glint of the sun and shining it back at you as it's tumbling. This is very possible. And that does happen. So something that's blinking in a non-rhythmic way like that could be something that's more likely not not a tumbling satellite, but maybe a UFO.
I just want to see another one.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of interesting too, Dave, when you get into going out at night and looking at the night sky and you're wanting to see something like this. The more often you do it, it's almost like you're bringing it to yourself. If you go out there with that intention, you almost bring it to you. You know what I mean? So the more often you go on your ghost hunts, the more likely it is to happen where you have this activity. Same thing with Bigfoot or anything else. I think a person going out to do this work is going to have it more often. The more often you bring it in to your reality, the more you ask it to happen, the more you want it to happen, the more often you'll see it.
Well, that's actually quite interesting. The more you ask it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that answer from you.
Well,
you're more nuts and bolts. For people who understand, you're more nuts and bolts. And you don't do the woo side very easily. Asking it to happen is very woo.
Well, yeah, I'm okay going there to a certain extent, because I believe with consciousness, we all have consciousness, and I think we can affect things in our reality. It's like knowing when somebody's going to call you, or knowing somebody's looking at you in the car next to you as they're driving by, or whatever the case may be. That way, it's in our consciousness somehow, right? And there's a two-way communication going on if we realize it or do not. And that communication, if you hone it, if you keep going with it, you're going to get better results. And I think that's part of the key. And I think maybe that's why you keep getting called back to the crash site.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That is an interesting story. You know how many people that I've talked to over the last few weeks about this? About being haunted by a location?
Yeah. Yeah. So am I.
Are you haunted by Mount Adams?
Oh yeah, I want to go back there so bad. I can't stand it. It's not just that. In my mind's eye, Dave, it's like they're calling me back there. I don't know. And it's not, there's no fear involved. There's just like a need for them to want to communicate with me, and for me to want to communicate with them. I think there is some kind of connection that we have now. Obviously, being called to that location in the first place 4 years ago, and finally going this year. I mean, there's a calling, and it's pretty darn strong now. It's gotten stronger since what happened in June has happened. So
explain what you mean by that calling.
It's like in the back of my mind, I can almost feel or hear, not hear, sense that they want some sort of dialogue or communication with us. It's like there's unfinished business that we want to do here. You need to come back. There's a deep interest in what we do, or Jackie and I was doing there, and they want us back. I think that certain people they can sense are not a threat in any way, shape, or form. And those are the people that they call to. And you may wake up in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning and say, man, I really need to go back there. I don't know why I just had this dream, or I don't know why I have this deep-seated desire. I need to go back there. And if you really look hard at that, it's almost like a calling. They are calling you back. And I think that's the same thing that's going on with you.
Well, I think that's exactly what's happening. You know, it
Mhm.
is what I'm seeing, and I was explaining this with Walter M. Sterling on Sterling Every Damn Night tonight. What I'm seeing is I see the parking area of the cul-de-sac, okay, which is probably double the size of this studio, very small. I see the trail going into the wreckage of the plane crash. I see the trees that whatever it was following us. It's those same trees where the alien was in 2013 or in 2023. The UFO was in there when we saw the alien. Whatever was following us this year was there. I see just the feel of it, the fact that there's no birds making noise. And I'm getting flashes of these, like basically saying it's time to come back. It's time to come back. And I
It's
do
more,
know that I don't want to go back there at night, though.
it's more than your desire. It's the area, the energy in that area wants you back there. You
Now,
know?
let's talk about that for a second. We got 5.5 minutes to go here. Let's talk about that for a second, because how does the energy create what we are supposed to do? Or is it that we're just picking up and we're allowing our imagination to make that happen?
No, I think it's because there's entities in that area, lots of different entities, right? You're not just talking Bigfoot, you're talking aliens, you're talking the spirits that are there. They see the respect that you give to them in that area. And every time that you've gone there, um, it hasn't been a situation where you were angry. There was no anger. There was nothing like that. So it's almost as if the area wants you to go back there, everything in conjunction together. You know what I mean? Everything in that area is feeding into that energy vortex of call it, like Gaia of that certain location, a mass mind. It just wants to have you interact with it and interact with the entities in that area.
And that's the fear. That's the fear. Is I feel like they're in control right now. Do you not feel that from Mount Adams?
No, I don't feel that they're in control at all. I feel that I'm in control, but they want me back there. And it's a very welcoming feeling. There's
See,
nothing.
I don't get that. Sorry to cut you off, but I don't get that on my end. I don't get that it's welcoming. I don't get that it's nefarious. Okay, but I know that I'm getting the proceed with caution yellow blinking light sign.
Okay. And could that be because of the plane crash and how those people passed on in that area?
Nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the plane crash or even the spirits that are there.
How do you know?
Because I can feel it.
Okay.
As weird as that may sound, and there may be people, I'm on the edge of my seat with this, and that just was a BS cop-out answer. I can see that happening. But no, I can actually feel that, it isn't about the plane crash. It isn't about the souls that were lost there.
Okay.
It isn't about that at all. They are part of the production of it all, if I can put it that way. It's about the other beings that are around and the energy there, how it plays with you.
Of course. It's going to play with you. It wants to know how you're going to react. It it gathers something, or it takes something, if it's knowledge or whatever it is, from you. At least it's interacting with you. They need that. Whatever it is, it needs interaction of some sort, and you're giving it to them.
Well, we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna see how it goes, because your area, I think, would see my other Sasquatch area is much like your area on Mount Adams.
Yeah.
It's very curious,
Mm-hmm.
welcoming, curious. Hey, let's see what you're gonna do next time. Maybe we'll come out and play.
Yeah.
That's the way our one area is. This area where Flight 21 is, completely different, man. Completely different. Like, you don't know. And I know you're planning on coming up here next year to work on some things with me.
Yes.
And when I take you out there, you'll immediately know. Like, you're all excited about staying the night there.
Yes.
Wait until you feel the energy.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, wait. Would I stay out the night out there again? No. No. Was it safe when we were there? Yes. But when they wanted us gone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it was time to go.
I felt that before too. Yep. When they wanted us out of there, it was it was like a big kick in the rear end, get out. I had some flashes of stuff in my mind that I don't want to look at, so
I
they
hear
have
you.
their ways.
Lee, I'm going to get you to pause right there, because we do have to call the radio. Hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Call. Rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official user of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your car, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your sister... Whatever. Hop on a ticket and get out here. I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Well,
Sheets are always available. The hell do I say?
oh boy, see, they're already calling you right now.
Son of a... Oh, your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. How did I blow that? Wow. That was interesting. Cool. Cool.
Yes, sir. Brain fart.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one. That was a good one. Mm-hmm. How was your show?
My show was good. It was great. Loved it.
Isn't Carter amazing?
Oh my gosh. He's got so much, so many stories to tell. I wanted to pick his brain for 3 hours, but That wasn't going to happen.
No, because I cut you off. I'm rude with that. Get off my airways.
I make sure that I am promptly off by 9. So
I know you do. Oh man.
yeah.
So excited. So excited to go to bed.
You got to work tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's a short day tomorrow.
There you go.
Then we have our meeting.
Yep.
You know what I did? You know what I did tonight
What's that?
before the show?
Yeah.
Cleaned up my entire, because Mrs. SOR and the boy are out of town at a hockey tournament right now. And so I cleaned the entire kitchen.
Oh.
Including the fridge and cupboards, man.
Wow.
Like, what the hell am I doing here? Friday night, my excitement is cleaning up the fridge, the kitchen. Oh my God. My 50s were supposed to be better than this.
Well, I have to get into the kitchen, at least 4 times a week and clean it. So, and that's just me here. So 3 other people. Yeah.
Yeah. I literally threw out almost everything in my fridge tonight. I was on that kind of a roll.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm busy here building out a studio for myself. It's going to look amazing when it's done, believe you me.
Oh, I bet. I'd like to expand mine a little bit.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also like, well, do I really want to expand it? Because just in case, say a major network picks us up on radio.
Uh-huh.
That way I can go rent a building here and have there's one building here that I know is empty right now, and it's an old radio studio. There's like 2 old radio studios. One's in an old church here, and the other one is actually an old radio studio.
Wow. That would be slick.
And I'd love to have either one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be super cool to have an old church. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have to ask my ghost from in here to join me over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had the window open all night. And I'll tell you, the nicest breeze has been coming through here. It's raining here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to get some rain here. I think tomorrow. It's coming down from up north.
That would be from us.
Yep.
When you see that rain, think of old Davey. That's what you need to do.
Yep, it's got to pass through you to get to me.
Yeah. I just want to be blanketed in snow right now. Like I'm so ready for the snow, because last year we didn't get a lot of snow.
Oh.
But I literally want a dumping, man.
I'd love that too. I'd love to have like 2 feet. That'd be great.
2-3 feet is perfect, because you can still walk in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But like when I first moved up here, we'd get like about 6 feet of snow, but it would come in stages.
Huh. And stick around for quite a while then.
Yep. And then last year, it just kind of went all weird. And this year started off like we were going to get a dumping.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't happened yet.
Well, I'll tell you this. We got our first frost here about 3 days ago, and that was the first one of the year. And we usually get a frost or two in October, and we didn't have it. So it's kind of odd.
Yeah. But seasons change, feelings change.
That they do.
Who sang that?
I don't know.
Wasn't the Bengals, was it?
Oh man, Dave, I can't remember.
Oh, come on. You walk like an Egyptian like anybody else.
Well,
You and your stone-washed Aikida jeans.
I came out of my mother walking like an Egyptian. Stone wash jeans, huh? I remember the acid wash jeans.
Yeah, the acid wash is what I meant.
Yeah.
Thought it was the Bengals. Oh, Susanna Hoffs. She's like 64 years old and she doesn't look like a day over 40.
Them some good jeans there, bud. Talking about jeans. I'm trying to stay young myself. It's not easy.
Oh, dude, this whole gray hair thing, it drives me nuts.
Well, at least you got hair and it looks good. Your hair looks fantastic.
But if you need a beard, I can lend you some. I got some hair in here.
I have no problem growing a beard. I just can't grow what's on top of my head.
Look at these lovely locks I can lend you here.
Oh, dear Lord. If I was to wear some of that from underneath my hat, that would be hilarious.
I got hair for you. Don't you worry. You know what? It's still soft as silk, too.
Lee is from Washington State. Yes. Born, bred, and raised. I've lived all over Washington.
Yeah.
Eastern, western, south, north.
Lee once, if you ask Lee about it, he'll tell you. He once won a corn shucking competition at the Puyallup Fair.
This is not true, but it's freaking hilarious.
Expose. Thank you, Chris Jarvis. Thank you. It was Expose that sang the song.
Brown dwarf. He's saying that's less. I look like Les. Yeah, Les Stroud. Well, no, sir. I do, but I'm not.
Laura Dominguez, how are you? Do you ever need a beard? I got some of them too. You know it's going to be the greatest addition to my collection?
What's that?
R Keith Andrews mutton chops.
Oh, yeah. Is he going to send you those?
No, he's refusing to cut them off.
Those would be spectacular.
I would put them right. I'd get rid of this sign.
Oh, yeah.
And I would get like a mannequin head and I would put those mutton chops on it. Totally.
Yeah. I think I'd even go with some like black felt, actually, and just mount them, on black felt and then put them under glass.
That would be nice. That would be very nice. Oh, man. Are you in for the meeting tomorrow?
Yes, sir. I will be there with
right.
bells on, not shucking corn.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when that happened? 14?
Oh dear Lord. No, sir. No, sir. There was never any shucking going on.
So I'll tell you a funny story. I work with a lady named Carol. And Carol is just one of the greatest people I've ever worked with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Has your back on everything. So one day, this is going back a couple of years already. One day this customer comes in and I'm like, yeah, that's our receptionist, Carol. And she was kind of flustered that day. I said, just don't mind her, like I said, back in 1986, she had an incident in a wrestling ring. She was a professional wrestler, and she got knocked out, concussed pretty badly, and it ended her wrestling career. So I said, yeah, her wrestling name was Christmas Carol. And long story short, I expanded that story a few times. And you wouldn't believe it how many people believe that story. I even found a picture. So I created the story. I said, yeah. I said, were you a wrestling fan back in the day? Well, yeah. Everybody was in the 80s. I said, yeah. Did you ever hear about the Vancouver screw job? Right. And well, no, what happened? I said, well, Carol was the Canadian women's champion. And she was wrestling the fabulous Moolah that night. And Moolah took out some brass knuckles and punched her right on the top of the head and knocked her out. And Carol, the concussion was so bad she could never, ever wrestle again. So that's why she's moody sometimes from this concussion, right? And Carol's like in the background and she's just shaking her head, and all of this, right? And so I actually found a black and white photo on Google of the fabulous Moolah hitting somebody in the back of the head while she has her in a reverse headlock, hitting someone in the back of the head, and you can't see the lady's head.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, man. So I've got that, and I even got Carol to autograph it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I love making up storytelling like that.
Yeah, we got one on the job too. Usually it takes two guys, but we'll get the greenhorn in, and we'll set it up to where, like, okay, so Tommy, one of the other guys on the job site or whatever, just pretend like your mom doesn't have arms, right? And we'll go ask the new guy to ask you how your mom plays the piano, and you're supposed to get really pissed off when that happens because she's got no arms. But we don't tell the new guy that. So we'll ask him to go ask you how your mom plays the piano. And so we set this guy up, this greenhorn we got in. Hey, go ask Tommy how his mom plays the piano. And so he goes over there, says, well, how does your mom play the piano? I hear it's really interesting. And Tommy turns around and looks at the guy and just gets this, crunched up face and goes, damn it, my mom doesn't have arms. How dare you, just totally making it believable. And the guy was just crushed. The greenhorn was just crushed over it. And it was just classic.
That is awesome. Yep.
Love that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Job site humor is
Oh,
awesome.
If you don't have it.
Oh, yeah. So many things, so many stories.
Yep. Happened at the Pacific Coliseum, October 31st, 1986, the Vancouver screw job. It was an ugly night. Kids were crying.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite wrestling scene of all time is when the Dudley boys put Mae Young through the table, or like jumped off the stage and put her through a table. Stage. It's brilliant. Let's see if I can find it. This thing is brilliant.
Man, I'm still back with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and those guys.
Oh,
the Bushwhackers.
let's see here. Hold on. I gotta just keep the sound down here. Like Mae Young at this time is like, I think she's like 78, 80 years old when this happened. Yeah, it's pretty cool. 1 second. I just gotta wait for the commercials to end. Okay. It is one of the most brilliant wrestling signs.
The theatrics is awesome.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, that's all good.
Rowdy Piper.
Loved Rowdy Piper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But actually, if you watch that video and like the wrestling Eric, you can actually see her. She reaches for his hand and gives it a squeeze to let him know that she's just fine.
Oh,
yeah, like she was a professional wrestler, like back in her 20s, man.
Wow.
Yeah, like from her early 20s on, and she was still wrestling at like 70 years old.
Holy cow!
75 years old, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, sweet Lee.
Yes, sir.
Time to call it the night, my man.
We will. I'll send you this. So,
yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, buddy.
All right.
To our audience, don't forget Sweet Robbie G is this weekend on the show. So make sure you check it on out. And he's going to have a couple of great shows there for you. Yeah, he will. And then what does he have tomorrow? Griselda Manticon. Griselda Manticon tomorrow. I'll be back on Lundy with Paul Hynek and Serena DC talking some UFOs. Yeah, remember everybody, Paul Hynek is not funny. He is not funny at all, and you'll see why on Monday. Much love, everybody. Thank you to our super chatters tonight. Simon ×2, Big Dog with 4, Deb ×2, Richard ×2, Greg, Steve, Backspin, Mel, Joe, Marty, Walter, and Lendaloo. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for a wonderful week. We'll see you soon. Where am I here? There we go.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.